With the great competition that you played last week and then great competition coming up this week, what do you like about your team so far, and what's the biggest area for improvement?
I like the fact that they have another level to them, another gear, another gear on the court, but also another level as far as focus. You want them always focused for games, but some games you need a little bit more focus on the details, because you know that the details will be the difference maker of winning and losing. Um, I like that we had to fight, and you can see on their faces they didn't bend, they didn't flinch. Even when we went down in that last game in the fourth quarter, you just saw them just go about their business and stay focused on the task at hand, and they delivered. Obviously there are a lot of things that come out of playing a tight game like that, and obviously the free throws jump off the page, the missed layups, they jump off the page. But the flip side of that is when you look at those things, when we're winning and we're not making as many layups, and we're winning when we're not making as many free throws, you got to look at the attempts too. So I mean, we get to the free throw line a great deal. Once we start shoring up those areas, I think we can create a wider gap, for us to just work from, and not just work from 2 and 3 and maybe one possession or being down.
Keith, and then we'll go to Matt.
Hey, Coach, thanks for doing this. So 2 questions. One, how pleased have you been with practice since you guys got back from South Dakota? And then number 2, ideally, what would you like Destiny Littleton's role to be for this team? And how is she doing coming off of those ankle surgeries?
Practice has been good. Obviously they were a little sore on Tuesday, but we were active. It was an active, restful practice. And then today we got after it a little bit. Obviously we're still a work in progress, and hopefully we'll continue to get better. Final week is coming up next week. So, I mean, they're juggling things at the moment, but super proud that they're able to compartmentalize being in the gym for the couple of hours that we're in the gym, and then going back and studying. Destiny Littleton, I think Destiny's at a place where she's practicing every day. She's getting better, but you also have to understand that she really hasn't played in a full 2 years. And I know she probably wants to knock the rust off a lot quicker than is happening. Most young players would like to do that. But she's playing a role of point guard for us. She's playing a little role of, we're moving her around a whole lot. So she's got to be that utility player. A lot of times if I don't play her a lot of minutes, I mean, I wouldn't probably put her out there at the end of a basketball game, just because I just don't want to put her in a position to injure herself further. Sitting a long time and then having to go play meaningful minutes is not putting our players in a good position, and surely not putting her in a good position. But she's not where she was a month ago, and she's not where she will be a month from now. So just looking forward to just getting her stronger and getting her some valuable minutes and experience.
Matt, and then we'll go to Greg.
Coach, Destiny Henderson getting a co-SEC Player of the Week. Over the weekend, she was talking about how everyone's still kind of figuring out their role on this year's squad. What do you see her role really being this year? And also, do you think she's a little under the radar on a national scale?
I mean, Destiny has been that. She's calm, cool, collected, even through, some of the mistakes that she makes out there on the floor. Is she under the radar? Probably. I mean, for some of the people that are on, that's on some of those national lists that, some haven't played a college game. To do that, and she's played 3, and she's come out the gate and played 3 good games. And I don't say you bless her with being on one of those, watch lists, but you definitely have to watch. And if you're watching, then maybe she needs to be on the list. So, it all depends on how you look at it.
Greg, and then to Keith.
Dawn, you kind of mentioned in South Dakota that Aaliyah, wasn't playing up to her very high standards. And obviously going into this NC State game, it's going to be a big matchup with Alyssa Kanan. What does she have to do to kind of, reach back to that level of what you expect from her, especially given that teams are going to be focusing on her so much this year?
Yeah, I mean, the novelty is certainly worn off. Everybody knows who Aaliyah Boston is. So, I mean, she is the target on everybody's scouting report, and they're going to do things to, limit her touches, limit the amount of times in which she can impact the game. I mean, we have to do a better job of getting her the ball. And it's pointed out to our, to the 4 players that are on the floor with her. Because obviously she's open, but we're not doing a great job at looking for her and looking at her. So, that's on us as coaches to make sure that when she's open, we need to give her, make a considerate effort to give her the ball. And I just told them that, a few minutes ago. And it's not, it's not for her to shoot every time, because her getting touches will only help other players. But it's also for, she needs to see the ball go in the hole. That's one. And then another is, she'll create fouls. I told them if Kanan is able to play her average minutes, we're in trouble. We got to figure out how to limit her minutes and limit her touches and limit her production. And the way you do that is, I'm sure she's going to guard Aaliyah at some point. We got to make that work for us.
Keith, and then we'll go to Mitch.
Hey, Coach, so 2 stats really jumped off the sheet last weekend, and that was transition points and second chance points. And those were really the big deciders in those games out there in South Dakota. Is that going to be a staple of this team? And then secondly, off of that, Destiny Henderson is one of the fastest players I've seen with the ball. Like, she's faster with the ball than most guards when they don't have the ball. Did you see that in recruiting with her? And was that a reason why, you really targeted her? And have you coached anybody faster than her with the ball? Maybe than you were when you played in college?
I can't even remember that, but I'm sure, she's much quicker than I was. I'll tackle the first one. Second chance points, transition points. Those are all, those are all characteristics of our team. We had that last year. We have it going on this year. They're points of emphasis for us because we have great rebounders and we have, 5 players on the floor that can really get down the floor and play fast. So points of emphasis for us this year. Destiny Henderson. I mean, we liked everything about Destiny Henderson. I mean, we liked her speed, her athleticism, her ability to run the point guard, or, if we needed to slide her over, she could play the 2. And then she's got a great family. I think when you have, all of those attributes as a player, it's appealing to us. But she gives us no problems, like 0 problems. She stays in her lane. She speaks up when she needs to speak up. She's probably the most stylish player on our team, as far as you'll see on Instagram, wearing all different types, or posing with all different types of clothes on. That's probably the thing that, she's quiet, other than seeing her on Instagram with these loud colors on and matching sneakers. That's as far as loud that she'll get.
Mitch, and then we'll close it out with Greg.
Coach, obviously at the Mowers Classic, there were no fans, and in your first game, you had fans there. What was that environment like? Did it feel like just to practice against another team? And how did you feel like you guys responded to that? And as you go throughout the season, it's going to be different rules for each state and where you go.
I think we adjusted. You know, we knew that there weren't going to be, you know, a crowd there, but we just adjusted. You know, when the ball is tipped, you go into game mode. It doesn't matter. I mean, we weren't at home, and we're used to having a big crowd and a loud crowd. So it's kind of easier for us to just focus in on, because that's what it usually looks like when we're on the road in some places. But now it's just being very happy that we're able to express ourselves through playing, no matter if it's in front of one, person or 15,000.
Greg?
Coach, you mentioned Kanan obviously being a huge part of NC State. What else have you seen from them? What are they like as an opponent?
Well coached, they're very calculating. Wes is going to do a great job at figuring out who he wants to pick on. They're a great 3-point shooting team. They attack the basket. They keep you back on your heels. And they're just different because we haven't played them. So we're looking off of 2 current games that they played, and then, some of what they did last year. They got great pieces that are linked up and play well together. They're a great rebounding team. They're just solid. They're, top 10 in the country for a reason. And those reasons are they're pretty disciplined. And that's what I like watching them. I like scouting them because, although you can kind of predict some of the things that they're going to do, there's a part of them that is unpredictable, unknown in that, because they got gears. They got another gear to them that they really haven't shown in the first 2 games because, they were blowouts. But the mystique about them is they have gears and we have gears, and who's ever able to shift and move ahead in this game will probably win the game.
Kind of one last thing, if I can. You mentioned getting Kanan in foul trouble. How do you protect Aaliyah from getting in foul trouble against them?
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, it is, strategically, we just try to have Aaliyah just stay as big as possible and not reach in where she doesn't supposed to reach in. I think what helps Aaliyah is for her not to pick up a foul early in the first quarter. I think that really helps her psyche out, and it really helps my psyche out, because then I'm juggling whether or not she can be disciplined enough to, fight the urge to fight back with people or retaliate or whatever it is. She's still very young. She's a sophomore. She's played a lot of minutes for us. I want to give her the benefit of the doubt, but at the same time, I think she's a little frustrated now because she hasn't played up to par. So you just don't want her reaching in that bag of frustration and putting herself in foul trouble. That will just, that will hurt our team, because we don't want to sub because of foul trouble. We want to sub because of exhaustion.
Thank you, Coach. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.